Welcome back to another episode of the Nick Cage Fight Podcast, where we review Nick Cage movies until we run out of them, at which point we'll pivot to reviewing episodes of To Catch a Predator. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Rich and Ryan. What are we going to call our To Catch a Predator review podcast?
To Catch a Podcast.
To Catch a Podcast. I was
sexual
thinking
Tyrannosaurus.
I was thinking to rate a predator, but I don't think that's going to give off the appropriate vibes.
We're talking about the dudes with like the techno dreadlocks that come down and fight Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
Yeah, not quite.
Okay.
A little bit more disturbing, if you could imagine. We're here to finish and put to bed entirely Pay the Ghost, which I'm sure everybody is as excited as I am to finish this one up. We last left off, Mike had seen a spooky scene in the camcorder that Charlie had used on his last night as part of a loving home. We cut directly from there to what happens to Kristen that evening. Give the film credit for a little bit of symmetry here, because that same night, Kristen is awoken by sounds in the house. She gets up to investigate, and when she goes downstairs, Charlie's old scooter, which I think is a Razor scooter, I'm not entirely sure. It looks like a Razor scooter, or one of their knockoffs, is just sort of wheeling through the house on its own. And it rolls.
No, it was definitely a Razor scooter. I paid pretty close attention. I was waiting for that to take somebody's fucking ankle off.
Oh yeah, right. Unfortunately, that's not what happens in the scene. That probably would have added the kind of comedy element to horror that I like to look for. But no, instead of whipping viciously into her ankle, it just stops in front of her and then falls over.
This may be the only film I've ever seen that has a haunted Razor scooter in it. So it's got that going for it.
I think you're right, which is weird because that seems like pretty fertile ground to plow for horror comedies. But what are you going to do? Maybe we'll have to write the screenplay. So after this, Mike is returning to his apartment and Kristen is flipping the script and now waiting on the steps for him. She seems, after the Razor incident, to have come around a bit on the supernatural stuff. Now she's agreeing with Mike that it feels like Charlie is trying to reach out to them somehow. I love that Mike has clearly defined that he doesn't think Charlie is dead, but does think that Charlie is trying to contact them in some non-dead psychic fashion, perhaps. I don't know how he reconciles those ideas, but I did think it was kind of funny.
Yeah, normally with contact like this, it requires a dead person.
Yeah, right?
Or a psychic kid.
So Mike decides to try and prove a point about a theory of his to Kristen and I thought this was the funniest way to try and make this point. He's like, pick a date. And she's like, I can't remember if it's Charlie's birthday or her birthday, but she's like, one of her birthdays. And he's like, all right, great. Now look at this website with missing children. He types in the date. And, he's like, there's missing children. He's like, most of these kids are found. He's like, try any other date. Most of those kids are found. But if you try Halloween, most of those kids are not found. Like a bunch of kids that go missing on Halloween never are found again.
Which is funny because I wouldn't think that 3 would skew it all that much.
Exactly. It's funny for a couple of reasons. One, that he does the pick a day thing to try and illustrate his point, and 2, that the movie later defines that only 3 kids are disappeared forever on Halloween and the rest are supposedly mundane crimes. but right. This gives him the mathematical advantage to try and prove this point to people.
So I think it might be trying to do something more clever than the movie actually is here, since Samhain, Halloween, is supposed to be the day when the veil between the supernatural world and the physical world the veil is the most permeable. So there is a precedent of stories about Halloween and children disappearing because of that specific thing where they're taken into a supernatural realm. But again, I don't think this movie's that clever. It may have been something from the novella that did not translate well, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's only looking at New York City. which would make a little bit more sense, but it's never really stated.
Right.
He's just like, look at these missing kids.
Even New York City, I don't think 3 is going to throw the number. If it's their neighborhood, maybe. Like, not for nothing, I work explicitly with numbers and percentages in my day job, and 3 is never going to move the needle. Like, it's got to be really low numbers for that to be a thing. So after showing Kristen this, he thinks this is all connected, and he suggests they go and talk to the family of a child that went missing on Halloween 2 years ago. So they do. Upon arriving at the apartment, the doors open, so they just let themselves in. And
As you do.
Yeah. And it's disgusting. There's like food plates with like bugs on it and shit like that. And when they round the corner, there is a man sitting in a recliner, which appears to be the only furniture in the room besides a TV tray, on which there is very clearly a bent spoon used for cooking up some heroin. And a dude with a number of sores all over his body is just sitting in it. The guy asks for money if, they want him to answer their questions. And after handing over what I think was $100, I think Mike hands him 250s. The guy says, he has to pay the ghost. So, another shout out to the name of the movie, which makes no sense in the context of the story. And he explains that a year after his daughter was taken, he started seeing her and hearing her. And then just out of nowhere, it stopped and never restarted. Pretty weird. But it does play into the rules that they set up from here. So Mike calls the detective and explains his Halloween theory. The detective sounds like he's blowing Mike off, but after he gets off the phone with him, he calls for the police desk workers to pull missing children cases from Halloween specifically. When Mike and Kristen arrive back at their old house, Kristen invites Mike in. We cut to the detective who's seeing more similarities with Charlie's case in the files that he had pulled, specifically that the kid had mentioned something about paying a ghost directly before their abduction or disappearance in the notes from like interviews with the victim's family and so on and so forth, witnesses and whatnot. So he goes to talk to, one of these family members from one of these cases, and he finds himself at like a Chinese restaurant of some sort. And the lady that he's talking to reports seeing her missing child as well. While she's explaining the weird things that she's experienced, fire like erupts from the stoves in the kitchen and seems to malevolently reach out at the lady and the detective.
I thought that was just them fucking up a flamethrower, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's another one of those supposed to be spooky things.
I did find it funny that the dude's just fucking whapping it with a towel, trying to put it out.
I mean,
like, nah, that's a ghost fire. That's not going to go out so easily.
Yeah.
If
you got to pay the fire.
If you've never seen that happen in a restaurant, that is generally the first response. It's classic as far as my experience is to like assume that you have to test it out. Is like, is this a fire that just can be slapped out with a hand towel, or is it more serious?
Well, yeah, you don't want to crack into that fire extinguisher. The owner will get mad at you.
Yeah, it'll get extra mad at you.
Discharge everything. I didn't realize that until recently, but you crack into a fire extinguisher, it's not going to stop until it's done.
Yeah, those are single use. So
video games lied to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll lead you to believe they're a lot less like dangerous in and of themselves than they actually are too. I don't recommend you ever spray somebody with a fire extinguisher unless you're in a life-threatening situation, because that can go very poorly. So Mike and Kristen are setting up to have dinner, and Mike is setting the table. Kristen's taking a shower. The lights start to flicker, and then the power goes out entirely. Mike looks out the window and sees across the street 3 kids with like burlap sacks on their head, and then they burst into flames. And then when he turns back from the window, there's a bunch of dead looking kids standing in the house, and he drops his wine glass, but then the lights come back on and everything's normal again. But Mike has made a mess of the floor with some red wine.
And she's going to be real mad about that. She's going to be like, how dare you stain my floor? Never our floor, my floor.
Well, it wasn't carpets. I'm not sure if I think it was hardwood. Yeah, that's easy to clean up spills on, I assume. As somebody who's only primarily ever had carpets and I know what a bitch they are to try and keep stains out of, especially with like pets and clumsy folks like me. I'm
True.
assuming hardwood and stuff like that is the height of luxury and very easy to clean.
It's all right.
There you go.
Yeah, it's fine.
So Mike explains what he saw to Kristen, and she suggests that they get a psychic or a medium, to which Mike immediately replies, "Those people are frauds." And we cut directly to a woman stepping out of a cab in front of the house and is clearly most definitely a medium or a psychic. This is one of the few like jokes, intentional jokes that the movie does. It might be the only one, and I'll give him credit for it because that is very funny.
Yeah,
So-
it was, and also like you're dealing with ghosts and things that you never thought were real, but you're drawing the line at psychic. That's just a weird place to draw the line.
Yeah. You think Mike would be a little bit more fucking open-minded at this point. But clearly, I mean, he was talked around to it, so I'll give him a little bit of a credit. So the psychic is in the house, and she's saying like vaguely psychic shit, and she's like, I need an object from, you know, the person that you're looking for. And she's like, I'm not seeking stuff out, I'm just gonna let it find me. General vague bullshit that you would expect to come from the mouth of a psychic or a medium in a horror movie.
John Edwards shit.
Yeah. So after some hemming and hawing, looking for stuff and not finding anything, the medium goes to the window in Charlie's room and says, "It's here. It has all the children." And they're like, "Do you mean some of the children?" No, all of the children. But she opens up the window, and the door to the room slams closed, and then she is flung violently back against the wall and then up it before collapsing to the floor, bleeding and singed, like even burns Mike's hand a little bit when he goes to touch her. She seems really fucked up. She seems dead, and then we get a seemingly dead body grabbing the hand of someone checking on them jump scare. I told you I was going to tell you every single fucking one in the movie.
Yeah,
This
because
is the most recent.
it gets real heavy on the jump scares.
Mm-hmm. So the cops come to collect the dead body, and the detective is unhappy with the situation. Essentially is like, all of this terrible shit is happening around you guys, and it's centered around you guys. So classic cop line, don't fucking leave town. I do like that one, the don't leave town. But that night, it looks like Mike is at least been allowed to stay in their marital home again for the moment. Kristen is sleeping upstairs. Mike is sleeping downstairs. And that night, Kristen sleeps. Her tablet starts buzzing and turns on by itself, displaying the picture that Charlie drew of the monster he saw way back when. Now, I don't know if this was an addendum to the digital picture that he had originally drawn and we just weren't shown it in the first glimpse of it. But in this shot, we see like a cartoon version of Charlie in his pirate costume, sort of like tucked behind the monster. I don't know.
I didn't even realize that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be a spooky supernatural thing where like now he's in the picture.
Yeah, like I said, I don't remember it from the first glimpse that we got of it, and that was so this might be another market, tally it on your spooky counter. But Mike hears something and goes to investigate. That is another trope that happens in this movie a lot. I didn't specifically number and enumerate them like I did the jump scares, but a number of scenes are set up with a character hears something and goes to investigate. Mike goes upstairs and he finds Kristen sitting with her back to him on Charlie's bed, humming, and another jump scare. She whips her head around at him, and speaking in Charlie's voice, she says that it's cold in here where he's at, and she's coming, and he's scared. And Mike rounds the bed and he sees that Kristen is digging into her own arm with a pair of scissors. And when he tries to restrain her to stop her from hurting herself, she freaks out and then faints, basically.
This will be the last interesting part of this movie.
I think it's funny that this is where they lose you.
This is where they lose me.
Is it because of the symbol itself? Or
no, it's because as I watch it, like, okay, So the next scene, not like the very next scene, but like they go to like they realize that like, oh, this is like a Celtic meaning, yada yada yada. We'll get more into it as Josh explains it because he's better at that than I am. And they go to like this pagan ritual where I'm like, number one, New York City, this shit would have a crowd.
Okay, wait. If that's the part where like the movie losing you is culminating at that point, let's hit it when we get there because I have a separate and distinct complaint about a number of scenes that happen in a row.
Oh, there's a
starting
few,
right there.
There's a few complaints that I'm going to have, but we can hit it as we go.
Okay, so Mike cleans the wound on Kristen's arm. Kristen does not remember anything that just happened, and they see the wound is a symbol that's scratched into her arm with the scissors. We cut from here to the morgue where the medium is about to get autopsied, and as the medical examiner is making the incision, the medium's mouth opens and ash sort of wafts out of it, and then we cut to Hannah at the school, looking at the symbol that has been carved in Kristen's arm, and it is Hannah explains that it's a Celtic symbol for a goddess,
which is weird. It's not Celtic. It's for a goddess that is also three goddesses in one. The actual symbolism is that it's a waxing moon, a full moon, and a waning moon to represent youth, middle age, old age. Basically, the three faces of a single goddess. If we're talking Celtic, it would be the Morrigan. If we're talking like Greek, it would be Hecate. But again, not specifically Celtic.
Okay.
It's kind of like a fertility thing. So like the waxing moon is youth prior to being fertile. The full moon is the mother range of being a woman where one is fertile, and the waning being the crone, which is the only one that they call out through the whole movie after one is fertile.
Gotcha. It's like the what walks on four limbs and then two limbs,
Two limbs.
And then three
Yeah,
limbs.
exactly. Yeah. I don't know if that symbol is ancient or not. I think that might just be something that neo-pagans came up with in like the 60s. I could be wrong on that, but I'm fairly certain it does not date back as far as this lady's trying to say.
Again, I think it's just funny that it's such a benign fucking symbol on a billion pieces of cheap home decor nowadays. Hilarious to me. But they do learn that there was some kind of Celtic community in New York, and that when the influenza epidemic hit in 1647, 48, something like that, a woman was burnt at the stake because everybody believed she was doing some plague witch shit.
Well, yeah, if something bad happens, you got to blame the Irish.
Well, I mean, call back to Plague Witch in the last movie. We've had two Plague Witch movies back to back, not just witch movies, Plague Witch movies.
That is weird.
It is weird.
If I had a nickel for every time we watched a Plague Witch movie, I'd have 10 cents. It's not a lot, but it's weird it happened twice.
Yeah. In a row too. It is a little spooky. So Mike and Kristen plan to go where this Celtic community was at the time, right? But before they get there, we cut back to the morgue where the medical examiner is showing the detective the results of the autopsy, which was basically cut this woman open, and she was essentially a human hot pocket. Well, no, I'm sorry. That's a little bit reversed. Sometimes the very center is super, super cold. But in this case, she was burning lava hot on the inside with no visible burns on her skin on the outside. But essentially, her insides are charred crispy. And I do love that, like, the detective and the medical examiner just have like a collective shrug. They're like, what is this about? He's like, spontaneous combustion?
It never gets brought back up again.
No, it doesn't.
The scene is absolutely useless.
Fucking Spinal Tap drummer ass scene.
They do that. This movie is guilty of doing a lot of this, where they throw in sort of like a mishmash of spooky stuff without any real payoff to the narrative direction that they're going. The burnt from the inside out lady is one of the more obvious ones. Never explaining the vultures is another one. and we get into more egregious acts of storytelling from here on out. It really spirals out of control pretty quick. So at this point, Kristen and Mike find themselves at a weird modern day Celtic ritual thing where people are throwing corn husk dolls into a fire while wearing eyes wide shut orgy masks and robes. The thing that cracked me up is they literally have the Always Sunny in Philadelphia parody mask and robes on several of the people in attendance. It's fucking hilarious. Exactly. And for a group that is supposedly trying to do some sort of historic homage to these types of rituals, it just makes it extra funny to me, just the absolute lack of sincerity. So they're asking around to try and get some more information, and a woman happily explains the song they're singing and the history behind it. And as soon as this lady bites, Mike jumps right in with the supernatural shit. He's like, well, what if your kid was kidnapped and you start seeing them and they're not really there? And the lady's like, look, I'm just a fucking teacher. Like, we do this as sort of like a cultural celebration. And so at this point, they show her the symbol carved into Kristen's arm, and the teacher lady tells them that she explains the different phases of the moon and the correlation, and explains that the waning moon is one of the, I can't remember the exact word she describes it, but it's like one of the most evil, like, pagan symbols, because it symbolizes the crone who steals 3 children every Halloween. And she's extra dangerous because she's forgotten what it means to be a mother. Right now, I want you to pay attention to the fact of what this lady just said. It is about the crone specifically, and that this ancient pagan story is that the crone steals 3 children on Halloween because she's evil and forgot what it is to be a mother. Right? That's going to be important as we learn more shit from here on out. She also tells them that the door opens between the worlds on Halloween, and that the children taken the previous year can reach out, and it's possible that they can be saved. So this teacher lady, who's like a Celtophile, I don't know what you'd call these types of people, basically just lore dumps the plot and the rules for saving kids. Doesn't explain why you can only save kids that were stolen the year before, or what the deal is with that, but she makes it very clear.
She's the weird white girl at the LARP who put way too much thought into her character, but doesn't really know how to play Vampire the Masquerade.
I'm sorry. I don't think it's appropriate to describe it as like putting way too much thought into their character when they're just a chosen child magical girl every single time.
But they're always gonna have like 7 paragraphs about like why they're the magical chosen girl.
Yes.
Okay, what vampire family are they from? Are they Toreador, Tremere?
I think they're Gangrel because they just like the name.
That's fair.
Actually, wait, is my vampire book? There's my hunter book. I don't think I have my vampire book in here.
I could walk over to my vampire book, but I don't feel like doing so. I could play some fucking vampire. It's been a minute.
Have they released, or I'm sorry, have they announced a release date for Bloodlines 2 yet?
Not as far as I know.
That first one was one of the best games I played at the age I was when it came out.
It's so janky, but it's so good.
At the time, it was the height of RPG gaming to me.
That's one of the Fallout predecessors, right?
I think it's post Fallout 2, but it's pre 3D Fallout. So it's like the predecessor to that type of quest organization in a 3D space.
Gotcha.
And the difference from between the clans and stuff. Feel free to cut this. This is too far out.
Oh, I'm not gonna.
Every game playthrough is completely different based on what you do. I always played the psychos. The guys are a little bit quirky or insane. They were very fun. Anyway,
I always went Nosferatu because I like a fucked up face.
yeah, and you actually have to learn a whole different navigation system to get around. It's very cool. Anyway, yeah, we're a bunch of fucking nerds. This is a Nick Cage fight podcast.
We're
You
talking
know
about
what you're
Vampire
in
the
for.
Masquerade.
Yes. So this lady also explains that the crone cries out for her lost children once a year. So Mike immediately pins this as the place where the homeless folks were, covering their trash can fires with the weird wailing. And so Kristen and Mike make a beeline for that place in a cab. While they're en route, Hannah calls them and gives Mike the name of the plague witch that was burned at the stake. She was a young widow with 3 children. An angry mob came after, thinking that she was what was causing the influenza outbreak. And this is where we're explicitly shown that this is the scene we got in the beginning of the movie where the kids are hiding in the basement and so on and so forth. The mob took Annie, the witch, and the kids and burned all of them, making Annie watch them burn the kids first. The witch lady swore vengeance on them and that she would steal 3 children each year on Halloween as vengeance. Classic witch curse. Now, we've gotten 2 lore dumps back to back, and the writing did not bother to think about the contradictions here. Is this an ancient pagan deity who steals 3 children a year? Or is this 1647 witch curse who steals 3 children a year because her 3 children were burned at the stake? Did this not bother you guys? Because this bothers the shit out of me.
I was already a bit checked out at this
I
point.
was gonna say my brain was shut off at this point. I was just along for the ride because I knew I had to be.
Is it
And the ride wasn't very good.
Or is it a 1600s witch curse? Which one is it? Which one?
Yeah, just pick a lane, stick to it. It doesn't need to be both.
And they literally do this with like not 5 minutes of runtime between the two conflicting explanations.
And
You
they
guys
do
wrote
it with
this yourselves.
and they do it with 10 minutes of runtime left in the movie.
Yeah, it's awful. But you know what's not awful?
No, our Patreon is also awful.
No, it's fine. We're gonna review The Wrestler.
We're
Did
going to
you hear
review
about
The
that?
Wrestler.
We're gonna review Starship Troopers at some point.
Yes, we have found the connection. I forget
that?
what
I
it is,
can't
but it's
fucking wait
there.
for it.
I can't believe that's the same editor as G-Force.
That was a connection.
That was the connection. Yeah.
That's honestly fucking mind blowing.
Really, really funny story. So, this weekend, or last weekend was President's Day weekend, and I work in I work in furniture sales. So I'm selling some stuff to this family, and the daughter in the family is talking about like what she needs for like YouTube, and I'm like, no. And I'm talking to like, oh, how do you know so much? I'm like, I do a podcast. And they're intrigued. What is your podcast about? And I say, it's about a Nick Cage movie. And the son, who is like 14, says, you know what movie I loved as a child and just hate now? G-Force.
Hell yeah, kid.
Did you plug
know.
our episode?
I did. He searched it on Spotify. I think he's listened to at least one episode. So, if you did, like, good on you, man.
Hell yeah, kid.
Do you remember his name?
done
You can give
good.
him a shout out. Not last name.
No, I don't recall
Okay.
his name, unfortunately. But we talked about G-Force and other Nick Cage movies. His dad really likes Con Air, I remember.
Fuck yeah.
Which is correct. His
And
father is correct.
and I did tell the kid to watch Between Worlds and Kill Chain.
Hell yeah.
Wait. I'm
With
sorry.
his parents?
How old was this kid you recommended Between Worlds to?
Okay, he was 17.
Okay. All right.
He was a week away from turning 18 because I remembered that. So I did recommend Between Worlds and Kill Chain.
Fair.
And
I
I said,
endorse
you're
this.
not going to believe this, but these 2 movies are straight to DVD and they are amazing. Kill Chain and Between Worlds.
Fair.
And he wrote them down in his phone. So I really hope I introduce this kid to Between Worlds.
Yo, if you're listening, kid, email us at, cagefightpod@gmail.com.
It is, Nick Cage Fight Podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah, hit us up if you watch those and let us know what you think. I'm curious.
Oh God, I really hope I get an email now.
If he emails us, we got to do a Patreon episode. Like, what did you think of those movies?
Like, yo, you're coming on the pod.
Yeah, letters from the listeners. That'll be awesome.
Patreon.com/Nick Cage Fight, though. $3 a month gets you every episode with no ads. We are also going to watch The Wrestler soon, so be ready for that.
Yeah,
And
mark
Bad
your
Lieutenant.
calendars.
Actually, fucking Kino Lorber just announced a new Bad Lieutenant Blu-ray that I'm definitely buying.
I thought you were gonna say another Bad Lieutenant movie.
Oh, fuck me up. That would be so good.
I thought that's where you were going to, and I was very excited.
It would have to be completely unrelated to the first two. No director, no lead actor. Completely new Bad Lieutenant.
Yes, directed by Verhoeven.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yes.
I would watch the shit out of that. All right, listen to these ads. Damn, those were some good ads, I assume.
And not one of them were for the Amish, I hope.
I want to laugh when it's an ad for BYU.
Yeah, but don't go to BYU.
Yeah, I don't recommend
Don't
it.
do it.
You can't drink coffee. So, okay. Mike and Kristen are en route to the weird homeless camp that's underneath some sort of industrial building. And while they're traveling in this cab, vultures start dive bombing the cab so badly that it crashes. We cut to Hannah, who, after giving Mike and Kristen all of this very useful information that contradicts what the teacher lady who loves Celtic stuff said to him, she's leaving the school. But as she leaves her classroom, she looks down over this balcony and sees the witch lady, who flies up at her very quickly and just throws her out of the window at the top of this building very unceremoniously. So long, Hannah. We hardly knew you. This actually elicited a full belly laugh for me because it comes out of fucking nowhere.
It was very funny.
So we cut back to Mike and Kristen getting medical attention at the site of the cab car wreck.
Which, by the way, the cab driver, who was actually probably wearing a seatbelt, is all fucked up. If you've ever been in the back of a New York City cab, you're not putting on your seatbelt. And they're just like walking away with like nothing. Like Kristen has like a cut on her forehead.
The only actual yellow cab I've ever been in was in Philadelphia, and they didn't even have seatbelts in the back. There was no option to obey seatbelt laws in the back of that cab.
No. And even if there was, like, you're not a nerd, so you're not going to wear your seatbelt.
I'm not gonna lie, the way this dude was driving, I absolutely would have buckled up. I really just sort of spread eagle, just tried to get my wingspan onto the top of each door. And this was during the SEPTA strike when I was going to college in Philly. I was just like,
Oof.
I don't know how to get to school now.
Got to take a cab.
Yep. I eventually figured out a train thing that got me there. So anyway, Kristen is going to need x-rays, so the ambulance and EMTs are going to keep her, and they tell Mike that the police are going to come and want to talk to him, but Mike runs off because they're rapidly running out of time. It is Halloween night. When it's over, that's it for poor Charlie. So he runs through a repeat of the carnival from the last year where Charlie went missing. And he eventually makes it back to the homeless camp, but it appears to be deserted. But oh shit, old maybe blind guy is there still, and he tells Mike that everybody is gone because the ghosts come out on Halloween.
Sure.
Vague and creepy, but sure. I feel like people in a homeless encampment have much more real world problems than ghosts, personally. But anyway. So Mike asks for help finding the crying lady, and the blind man demands his watch. This is where we at least get confirmation that the guy is blind, because he takes the watch from Mike and holds it up to his ear. And Mike is like, "Aren't you blind?" And he's like, "Blind as a bat, but I'm not fucking deaf," basically.
It's just Stick from Daredevil.
Yeah. After paying the blind guy toll, the homeless guy brings him to a long metal catwalk. And it turns out Blind Guy knows way more about this shit than he first led Mike to believe.
You
When
don't
they-
say.
Yeah.
Are you telling me the weird blind guy was not on the up and up?
No, not at all. Takes him to a long metal catwalk, tells him this is the way to cross over to the other side. And he needs to be back before Halloween ends or he'll be trapped there. And then the final, maybe funniest thing is he pulls out a fucking flashlight from his pocket, which why would a blind guy need that? And hands it to Mike and does give the funny line, I think you need this more than I do. Ridiculous.
Okay, so this is what I was expecting here. Actually, no, I'll tell you. I'll say after we wrap this movie what I was expecting here. But just remember that I was expecting something different out of this scene, and I will get into it.
All right. I'm making a note. So the catwalk is shrouded in fog, and beneath it, it appears to be like full-on thunderheads that the catwalk is suspended above. Vultures harry Mike as he crosses, and on the other side, Mike finds himself in what appears to be some foggy woods. There's a child standing with their back to him, and when he touches their shoulder, they burst into flames, and we get the witch burning scene again. I don't even think we get anything particularly new from it. It's just a repeat.
Right. I think we, at least this time, we see the curse, basically. We see her curse the people in a language.
Yeah.
Gaelic, maybe? I don't know enough.
It's
about
probably
Gaelic
gibberish.
Yeah, it is probably gibberish, but I don't know enough Gaelic to make a judgment call on that.
Listen, I'm assuming that they were just like, listen, just speak and just say some fucked up shit. It doesn't matter. No one's going to see this movie.
I do really think they're phoning it in at this point. But so Mike continues into the woods and he finds the cabin, Annie's cabin, where she and her children were taken from. The one he saw on the camcorder. He goes into the cabin and clears the way to the cellar entrance where Annie's children had hidden. He sees the witchy table and then just a massive horde of ghost-looking children in costumes, just like a sea of kids' faces. He calls out for Charlie, and just like a bunch of kids raise their hands.
All of the kids. He's like, has anybody seen Charlie? And all of the kids raise their hand. Like, I would like to leave.
Well, that's the funny thing, is because it would have made sense, like, if they all did that, like, all of us want to get out of here. But it wasn't all of them. It was just a lot of them. You know what I mean?
Some were actually pretty chill with the situation.
Yeah. So Mike starts walking through the crowd with his hand out, and his hand is passing through all these little ghost kid hands. And eventually one grabs his, and it's Charlie. And he's like, come on, we got to get out of here. And Charlie goes, wait, this is Mia and Pablo, two other children. And he's like, these are the kids taken the same night as me. Can we take them too? He goes, all right. And they leave the house and begin to run as they hear a witchy shriek. And in the background, we see like lights come on in the cabin, and essentially all the ghost children file out to stand in front of it. They get to the metal catwalk and start to cross it. And sure enough, there is a figure blocking their path. This is the ghost that just wants her fucking money, man. She flies up and
Sorry, that got me pretty good.
she flies up and grabs Mike and throws him behind her on the catwalk, and is now standing between him and the kids. Mike rushes back to confront her again, and she snags him by the throat and lifts him into the air above the catwalk. Charlie calls out back to the ghost kids and asks them to help his dad. The kids apparently are ready and willing to heed the call and go full ghost cyclone. It's pretty well choreographed for a bunch of kids who have been standing in a basement for God knows how long. But the ghost kids hit her with the full cyclone, and she drops Mike back onto the catwalk. He runs to the kids and grabs them, and they start to sprint down the walkway as it begins collapsing behind them. They get almost all the way to the end, and Mia and Pablo cross safely, but Mike and Charlie, the last panel of the catwalk falls before they get all the way across it. But we get a classic camera pan up. Mike is holding onto the ledge and Charlie, and he lifts Charlie up and sets him safely on the other side.
There's a certain camera angle where you can see the platform that Nick Cage is standing on.
I missed that.
I also missed that.
You couldn't really
that's a
see the
shame.
platform, but you could see his feet were like level, or if you're hanging, your toes are probably down. But his feet were just, in that 90-degree position.
So he lifts Charlie up and he lifts himself up, and they're on the other side, and the weirdo raging storm behind them just transforms back into a regular cement wall. Mike, the next scene that we get, because I want to specify something here, because they needed to not explain this next part. The next scene we get is Mike arriving back home with Charlie, where Kristen is waiting. Charlie doesn't remember anything from his time on the other side. He believes they're just getting home from the carnival a year ago when he disappeared.
Wait, isn't it during the day when they get back?
I don't even remember, because I was thinking about another gaping plot hole.
Well, yeah.
Which is that Mia and Pablo are not with him, because the movie cannot possibly address this. Because if Mike showed up at the police station with Mia, Pablo, and Charlie in tow, he would have been put in jail immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately for forever. So Mia and Pablo, Godspeed. Don't know what happened to you. Hope you're all right. Could you imagine if he got out on the other side and the reality of his current situation hit him, and he's just like, Charlie, listen, this is going to sound cruel, but we got to kill these kids and hide the bodies. There's no way we're all going home happily ever after if these kids are released back into the world alive. So yeah, the movie clearly can't address that, because there's no closure for the detective arc, for him actually accepting that there's something supernatural going on. So the movie's just like, fuck it, ditch it. Outside in the street, we get another vulture shot, which is cawing loudly in the street right in front of their house, and then flies at the camera. And the credits start rolling, but we're not done quite yet.
But not really. We have, because the one thing this movie needed was a mid-credit scene
that does nothing and explains nothing, and just
it's a jump
awful.
scare. It's a jump scare. It's added to the jump scare counter.
I didn't even remember it happened.
So we get a couple of credits, and then we get a scene of vultures flying around in the sky. Then we get a couple more credits, and then we get another scene where the camera is sort of rounding the corner from this like chain link fence with those like green plastic slats run through it, right? And there's clearly some vulture activity happening above it and behind it. And we round the corner and we see Hannah impaled on some rebar.
Oh, I did remember.
And the
this.
vultures are going to town on her body. And then, like, at a crescendo of a violin chord, her eyes snap open and the camera zooms in on it. And then we get the rest of the credits.
Pointless. Completely pointless.
Okay, remember that time when I said, remember this part because here's what I thought was going to happen?
Yes, I
do
do.
This is
remember
where I
that
talk
time.
about it. So the whole movie sets up a few times that this man is bad at telling time. His phone dies. He's late for trick-or-treating. He's bad at time management. And they tell this to you. They show it to you multiple times. So when they put a time limit on him getting out, I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen. The kids are going to get out, but he's going to just miss it because he's bad at time. And then that's going to be like the bittersweet ending. And they never mention it. The time factor is never brought up unless it is convenient to create tension.
I honestly, I can't believe that at this point in the film you had that much faith left into their narrative in integrity.
I try to give everything like just like at least a little credit of maybe they're trying to go for something here when they bring up time so much in this.
They weren't and they didn't.
They weren't and they didn't, but I will say that I thought Cage was going to get trapped on the other side too. And that would have fixed the plot hole of him having brought the other two kids with him on the other side. If just the kids show up, and especially if their memories are wiped by some witchy magic and Mike just disappears, I think that you have a much better ending at that point. I might even be willing to overlook the absurd conflict between the two stories as to the cause of the disappearing children. It
Also-
would have squared the circle better for me.
What are they gonna do when this kid tries to go to school tomorrow and like all of his friends are in the 3rd grade and a year older, and he's like, "Oh, you guys really got much taller than yesterday." This kid is primed for a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny that the MCU stole this for the whole Thanos snap thing. But no, you're absolutely right. That what is set up here is just years of therapy for poor Charlie
Yeah, and
and
oh,
jail
God.
for Mike. I mean, even if he found a way to anonymously get Mia and Pablo somewhere where they could be potentially reunited with their families, Mike's going to jail.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, he's going to jail. The kid, all 3 kids are going to have a mental breakdown
Mm-hmm.
and spend years in therapy, if not institutionalized.
Yeah,
This movie is not. It is not a happy ending.
it's not. It is not even close to a happy ending. And the funniest thing is, I don't think they intended it to be that way.
Yeah.
I think
don't
it was
think-
supposed to be a cathartic ending.
This is where I am going to give some credit maybe to the writer of the book, where maybe this stuff is addressed in the movie. They just didn't care enough, and they're just like, fuck it, happy ending, cool.
I'm willing to give an author the benefit of the doubt and refuse to look into it further so that I don't have my spirits crushed anymore. Very happy to do that. But yeah, there was easy solutions to all of this. Again, you could have had a very straightforward, if slightly boring, formulaic horror movie if you address the issue between the pagan goddess, the crone, and the witch in 1647, and then just had Mike not make it out of the other side. And then boom, you have a serviceable and coherent horror movie. Sort of.
Right. Like, I was fully prepared an hour into this movie to say, okay, this is serviceable. It's middle of the pack. It is. I'm trying to think of like another kind of like
It could be
it's
fine. You know?
Right. Like, I'm trying to think of a Nick Cage movie that we reviewed that we just decided was like, this is fine.
We've had a number of them. I mean, we've called them out as such, as like, it's fine. It's not great. It's not awful. It's fine.
Knowing jumps to mind.
Did we land on that with Kick-Ass? Was it fine?
Yeah, I think
so.
Kick-Ass was it was fine.
Firebirds was fine. I
that
mean, it's a
sounds
little
about
bit
right.
Kick-Ass if you like 90s.
I was gonna
nonsense
say
shit.
Firebirds is a little bit more than fine for me.
Yeah,
But I might be the odd man out on that one.
but yeah,
it's
it could have been relatively straightforward and not,
it was Valley Girl. It was Valley Girl. It was fine.
Valley Girl was fine.
Yeah, but instead it had to stretch and reach and hit bad status. It's not a good movie. I literally before this episode was the first time I actually managed to complete the film. I fell asleep both other times I tried to watch it. Just couldn't get through it. And I kind of wish I had previously, just because I could, at least now I can pinpoint it. I'm not going to wake up from a nightmare ending in a jump scare a year later, no longer living in my house, because I can at least pinpoint its narrative inconsistency that was a completely unforced error that pushed this film out of mediocrity and into badness.
And it's in G-Force territory. That's how I feel about it. At least it's in G-Force Christmas Carol.
Yeah,
Next
I did
category.
hate this movie as not as much as G-Force, but like it's maybe a skosh higher.
And I think it's different, again, for me not being a horror person, is that the first hour of this movie, I was so intrigued. And I was literally watching it like I was enjoying myself. I would liked this movie for the first hour. I can see Ryan's vein in his neck already ready to go.
I was bored to tears for the first hour. I thought it sucked
and
shit to begin with. but
Right. And I understand that as somebody who like watches and enjoys horror more than somebody like me with it. It's not my genre.
I gotta get you into some weird horror. I'm gonna hand you like my fucking Dario Argento box set. I feel like you'll appreciate some like weird Italian shit.
All right, let's do it. I'm ready
All right.
for it.
The
But-
weirder stuff might hook them, but I'll have to force them to watch my favorite horror comedy, Wolf of Snow Hollow, which is more funny than it is.
You would
horror to
definitely
me.
appreciate that one. That was a good ass movie.
That's what I like is some good horror comedy. But like I said, just not being adept at horror all that much, I found myself enjoying it. I liked I'm outside of like the jump scares that, like, again, me personally, I could see coming from a mile away. They still got me. I don't enjoy jump scares. They just stress me out.
They're miserable.
Yeah. Like in the beginning, I think the story beats that maybe appealed to you, Rich, were the thriller aspect of it. There's like a mystery of what happened. It seems like there's a cogent narrative somewhere in there. You know what it reminded me of like a bizarro world mirror of what I think was a good ghost horror movie starring Kevin Bacon, Stir of Echoes.
Ooh, Stir of Echoes is good. That movie does rule.
It is. It's very straightforward. They lay out the lore in an appropriately paced style, and the ending brings the mystery full circle. So it justifies the supernatural elements, but at its heart, it's a mystery.
Right.
And this is a horror movie, a supernatural story that follows the same basic beats, but just fucks it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is no catharsis at the end. There's too many loose threads. It doesn't make sense. It can't possibly end well with the corner that they painted themselves into. And again, the entire time, it's all choices they consciously made for reasons that escape me.
Honestly, with like 45 minutes of light Wikipedia research, they could have had a more whole like folk horror kind of thing going on.
Yeah, and at the same time, you could fix the with minor edits, the conflicting elements of it, and you'd be fine. It would be fine. Not great, not terrible, fine.
Fine.
Yeah, I would put this at lower than fine, personally.
100%. I wouldn't recommend this movie. It's not a good
definitely
movie.
not.
But do
And
you
it's
know
not
what
because
movie?
of bad acting. This
Oh.
one falls, in my opinion, entirely on how they structured the story. This thing could have all been fixed with minor script edits.
Yeah, no, the acting was fine. Nick Cage was Nick Cage. He's good.
He seemed a little sedated in this one for me.
I don't know. I think the Halloween lecture was really good. I thought the breakdown sobbing in the kitchen was actually relatively well played, although I wouldn't have necessarily framed it exactly the way that they did. And his manic pursuit in solving what happened was believable. And not just to heap praise solely on Cage. Sarah Wayne Callies' performance was fine.
I was gonna say
And-
she's
and-
good.
yeah.
The kid actor won like 3 or 4 awards for like best actor in fucking whatever. Hang on, I'm gonna.
Yeah, that kid wasn't bad. Usually I find child actors to be grating and very bad, but he was decent.
Yeah, I didn't shout out this kid in housekeeping either. Oh shit, he was in Critters Attack.
Is that a new Critters movie? Was there a new Critters
2019.
movie? Shit, I got work to do.
3.7 out of 10 stars.
Oh, baby. Sounds like a Critters movie.
Oh,
Yeah,
son
so-
of a bitch. He was in The Boys too.
So here
Oh, is he fucking Homelander's kid?
No, he's teen Lenny. He would be too old for that.
Oh, okay.
So
So-
here he won the Joey Awards, which is a Vancouver Film Festival, Best Actor in a Feature Film, supporting principal role, age 7 to 9,
Hmm.
and he was nominated for a Young Artist Award and a Young Entertainment Award. And I thought that he was serviceable in the things that was asked of him.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. He was also in the 12 Monkeys TV series that they made, which definitely has a crossover with somebody else in this cast list. I can't remember who. Because
Oh, I think it was the blind guy. I think the dude from Pontypool was also in that.
Okay. Then I think somebody else was too, because I didn't review him for housekeeping. Otherwise, I would have absolutely included him. So we might have 3 alumni from the 12 Monkeys TV series.
Might just be a Vancouver thing because I think he's from Vancouver as well.
Oh shit, he was in The Room too, which was
Do you mean The Room?
no,
as
no, no,
in-
no. I'm sorry, not remove the.
No, he's not old
he was
enough
in
for that.
Room,
All right.
the Brie Larson based on that book, which was basically
Was it like a Panic Room movie or something?
no, way worse than that. It was basically like a fictional story that was based on that horror rape house in Cleveland or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I read the book like years ago and I was like, ugh, this is rough. And then they made a movie out of it as well. Anyway, but yeah, no, he was fine. Like I said, the acting was fine. It's pure writing. It's pure shooting themselves in the foot on this one. And you know, I stand by that that definition for this film. Sorry, it could have been fine. It wasn't. It's their fault. Watch a different film. There's way better movies in this exact lane that you'll
Or just
enjoy
watch
more.
Trancers.
Yeah,
Yes.
Trancers, Stir
Trancers
of Echoes.
2, Return of Jack Death. Trancers 3, Death Lives. Trancers 4, Jack of Swords.
Now, hang on for a minute.
Hmm.
All right, what
Because
do you got for us,
I just rolled it out. Are y'all ready for an actual movie?
I like actual movies.
I do enjoy watching actual movies from time to time.
We got an actual movie, Raising Arizona.
Oh, fuck yes. Some Coen brothers?
Ooh.
Sold.
We got some Cage, some Cohen brothers, some Goodman.
Wait, isn't that also Helen Hunt? Do we
I
have
actually-
a Trancers connection?
Well, we already have a Helen Hunt connection with Kiss of Death.
No, it's Holly Hunter. I don't think Helen Hunt is in this. You might
Okay,
be.
you're right. It is Holly Hunter. Just
Okay.
similar names. Okay.
Yeah, no, but we do have a Helen Hunt connection already with Kiss of Death. So
Right. Yes, that is true.
yeah,
Yeah.
I am ready for this movie.
Yeah, I don't think anybody is unaware of this film.
It's the one where Nick Cage steals a baby. What could be more fun?
Oh, and by the way, I mean, this is going to be top contender for best hair thus far. He's
Absolutely.
got the sideburns, longer hair, and a mustache. That's a triple threat Cage hair performance right there.
Yes, and it's young Cage, like free new teeth Cage, which is I think is a superior Cage.
It is more charming.
Yes.
Plus, they got some John Goodman up in here. This is going to be a fun time.
Yeah, John Goodman, William Forsythe, who I actually like seeing pop up in the supporting cast.
Absolutely. Frances McDormand, who's always great.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, no, we need this. I think all of us, brain wise, needed a movie like this. This is going to be a good one.
I'm so ready to just wash my mouth of this movie.
Yeah, same here. Pay the Ghost. I will not. In fact, I will demand my money back from the Ghost. Thankfully, this is
I
one
demand
of
a
the.
refund from the ghost.
Thankfully, this is actually one of the few movies that we have covered so far that I have not explicitly purchased, and I feel richer for it.
Good.
So I
Yeah,
never
you
paid
should.
the
So now
Ghost,
you have that
and I
extra-
will not.
And now you have that extra money in case the ghost ever needs that payment.
Oh, by the way, I feel the need to include this because the movie tried their lamest swing to explain what paying the ghost was, and it was explained during the Celtic ritual. But there's so many other things wrong
they did.
with that scene that we didn't even cover it, and it has to do with the Cornhusk dolls that they were throwing into the fire and that were on the witchy table in the very first scene that we saw. And what it was is that kids would offer up these Cornhusk dolls at the ritual so that they wouldn't be taken. And that practice was referred to as paying the ghost.
Fucking
Sucks, right?
lame.
Yep,
Hey.
that is paying the ghost.
I would
Does
rather.
not explain anything else. Does not explain like the graffiti. Doesn't explain anything. Like who is tagging Pay the Ghost? I need to know.
Yeah, or the vault. Yeah, everybody, every graffiti artist just has this knowledge of this very specific Celtic pagan ritual. I would have much preferred if, when confronted on the catwalk by the ghost is like, "Where's my money? You ducking me? Where's my fucking money?" That would have really made this movie for me. Would have had a totally
If that
different
ghost
movie.
beat Nick Cage like he owed him money.
This could have been a great comedy.
Coulda. Absolutely coulda.
Twernt though. Twernt.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunate, but you know what? We're done. We're on the other side. And I wouldn't say we're better for it, but at least we have Raising Arizona to look forward to for next time. While you're waiting for our next episode, feel free to follow us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at cagefight_pod. Give us a follow or just tag us in something. Yell at us. I don't care. Interact with us. We'll interact back. That's my only promise.
Patreon.com/Nick Cage Fight, where we will be watching The Wrestler.
It's happening.
It's happening because Nick Cage was supposed to be The Wrestler, and it went to Mickey Rourke. So this is actually going to be a twofer because this is going to be a Nick Cage fight and also a We Will Work You podcast.
Between a Rourke and a hard place.
Rourkeabye, baby. We have so many ideas.
We will Rourke you. The hand that Rourke's the cradle.
Yes.
If you smell what the Rourke is cooking.
Oh, that is a good one. That's
really just say a sentence and then replace the word rock with Rourke, and that's where we're at right now.
Rock and roll, baby.
Rock and roll. Beautiful. But yeah, that's a reason to check out our Patreon because it's coming, baby. I'm telling you, that's a guarantee. Also, if you're an uncle, especially if you're a ghost uncle, follow us on Facebook, which is
just look up Nick Cage fight. We're there. I don't know how Facebook works. Like
I don't either.
It's one of those things. It's a black hole at this point. Basically all social media, like except for Instagram, I feel like it's just a black hole.
And we somehow invoked the wrath of Zuckerberg recently. I'm not even sure where that came from, but we have to investigate that. But Zuckerberg has been angered by us.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know. It was weird. Fucking whatever, man.
Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out, listeners. Just give us a follow. Feel free to interact, and of course, as always, we appreciate you.
Bye-bye. That was a spooky one.
I liked it.